Freeze right there, you stray mutt. Don't move. Officer Mike Dorsett barked the words like a drunk uncle at a family gathering, loud, pointless, and full of bile. His uniform hung crooked, his holster rattling with every aggressive step. Mike wasn't feared because he was dangerous. He was just plain embarrassing to be around. Most officers quietly avoided shifts with him, not because he was brutal, though he was, but because his mind belonged to another century. "What's a dressed-up street rat doing in this neighborhood?" he muttered, rolling down the window and spitting out lukewarm coffee. The bitter drink matched the mood clinging to his skull. Across the street, standing outside a wireless store, was a man. Deep brown skin, sharp-cut navy suit, clean shoes, leather briefcase in one hand, phone in the other. His posture was relaxed, voice measured as he spoke into the device. Mike hated that. The poise, the presence, the calm confidence. To him, that was provocation. "They think they can just be anywhere now," he hissed, as if that alone was an insult. Without calling it in, he threw open his car door and stepped out. No greetings, no questions. He drew his pistol like it was a toy at a fair. "Hands up, down on your knees. Now," he shouted, storming toward the man. The man raised his eyebrows, slightly confused. He didn't run. He didn't shout back. He simply lowered the phone and said, "Are you talking to me?" Mike's eyes narrowed. "Of course I am, you arrogant piece of garbage. What do you have on you? Cash from a deal? A hidden blade? Guys like you are never clean." A few passersby stopped. Some stared, some whispered. Phones were already out, recording. A young woman's voice rang across the sidewalk. That guy didn't do anything. But Mike was too far gone. His finger curled tighter around the trigger. "Drop that briefcase, or I'll drop you," he snarled. The man sighed, slow and deliberate. Then he spoke, voice even but ironclad. "You just made the worst decision of your life." Mike gave a twisted laugh. "Yeah? And you just made your last." His gun lifted higher, level with the man's forehead. Veins bulged in his neck. This wasn't fear. It was old, unchecked rage. The kind that festers when no one bothers to look. "You're not even human to me," he spat. "You're a walking infestation." The man stood tall. No flinch, no retreat. His eyes locked onto Mike's with something harder than fear, disgust. "You done yet?" he asked. Mike stepped closer. "Say one more thing. I'll blow your head open." From behind the windows of a bakery, a woman whispered into her phone. "There's a cop with a gun on an unarmed man. Yes, right now. He's screaming things I can't even repeat. Please, send someone." The man still didn't move. "Tick, tick," he muttered under his breath. And then the shot rang out. The bullet tore into his shoulder. His knees buckled. He groaned, one hand gripping the wound, the other gripping the briefcase still. Blood darkened the side of his blazer. Mike stood over him, grinning like he just want to bar a fight. "That's how we do it where I come from," he sneered. But the silence that followed wasn't triumph. It was suffocating. Sirens. Tires. Red and blue washing over glass and metal. Mike didn't notice the first voice crackle through the patrol radio. "Unit 47, drop your weapon immediately." His head snapped up. The man on the ground looked up too and smiled. Two cruisers skidded to a halt. An unmarked SUV rolled in behind them. Out poured a unit in tactical gear. Guns were raised, but not at the man bleeding on the concrete. They were aimed at Mike. "Officer Dorsett," someone shouted, "drop the firearm. This is your final warning." Mike staggered backward, baffled. What the hell is this? He's the threat. He's the threat. I'm the goddamn law. On the ground. Now, the injured man didn't even wince. He leaned his head back and said softly, "About time." Mike trembled, not from fear, but from rage so thick it clouded reason. "I don't care who he is. That guy's one of them, pretending to belong in a suit like he matters." A younger agent dashed toward the wounded man, crouching to check the bleeding. "Lungs close," he called out. "We need an ambulance yesterday." The man gripped his arm with surprising strength. "Wait," he said, voice gritty but firm. "Call Deputy Director Velasquez. Tell her the inspector just got shot." Mike froze. What did you say?" The man looked up, eyes blazing. "You didn't bother asking my name, officer, but you'll remember it." Within seconds, Mike was tackled, disarmed, and cuffed on the spot. "It's confirmed," One of the agents said into his radio. The shooter is in custody. The victim is Senior Field Auditor Noah Langston, DOJ Oversight Division. Inside King Memorial Hospital, doctors work quickly. One nurse gasped when she saw the ID. That guy works for federal investigations. Then make sure he makes it, the surgeon muttered. Back in D.C., a file was placed on a polished desk. Langston was reviewing precincts flagged for misconduct. Dorsett just exposed everything. At 3:12 a.m., Mike sat slouched in a holding cell. Paperwork on the table across from him spelled it out in brutal detail. Witness reports, body cam footage, racism complaints, all with his name on them. They'll bury me, he whispered. You buried yourself, replied the agent. By 8 a.m., Noah Langston, bandage across his chest, stood at a hospital window. A message buzzed on his phone. The media's quiet. We're ready to move. He typed. Not until I'm standing. I want them to see me when the hammer drops. Later that morning, Langston walked to a press podium. Yesterday, he began, a police officer shot me without asking a single question. Not my name. Not my reason for being there. He saw my skin and decided I was a threat. Flashes burst from cameras. As of today, a federal probe into the Eastbridge Police Department is active. Every case will be reviewed. Every badge will be held accountable. I didn't come to lecture, he said. I came to get the rod. Weeks passed. Dorsett sat alone in prison. A sealed envelope arrived. DOJ logo. One line was highlighted. You are not collateral damage. You were the warning shot. He didn't scream. He didn't speak. He just trembled. In the months that followed, the incident became more than just another news headline. It became a catalyst. The footage of Officer Mike Dorsett's arrest swept through social media, newsrooms, and government agencies like wildfire. It wasn't just about one man's racism or one trigger-happy moment. It exposed a truth the country had tried to ignore for too long. The rot wasn't just in a few bad apples. It was buried deep in the system. But for Noah Langston, this wasn't victory. Not yet. He returned to Washington with his shoulders still healing, the scar under his bandage a constant reminder. Every briefing he gave, every subpoena issued, every officer suspended under his investigation. It all came with the weight of knowing that if he had looked slightly more ordinary, if he hadn't worn that suit or carried that briefcase, the outcome could have been far worse. Or final. Langston didn't become a symbol overnight. He never asked to be one. But he embraced the role because silence had cost too many lives already. His words before Congress were broadcast nationwide. What happened to me was not exceptional. It was typical. The only difference was someone hit record. Across the country, similar investigations began to open. Departments once considered untouchable now found their internal reports pulled apart by federal lawyers and auditors. Whistleblowers came forward. A quiet rebellion began within the system. Officers who had stayed silent for years now spoke, unable to unsee what the world had witnessed. Dorsett's trial was swift. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: assault with a deadly weapon, abuse of authority, and attempted obstruction of justice. But even that verdict wasn't enough for Noah. Justice wasn't about one man in handcuffs. It was about the culture that gave him the gun, the badge, and the confidence that he could shoot without consequences. 1 year later, Langston stood in front of a new academy of recruits. Young, idealistic, eager to serve. Some of them were black, some Latino, others Asian, Native, white, or biracial. Many had seen the video. All of them had chosen to step forward anyway. You may wear a badge, Langston told them, but that alone won't make you just. Justice comes from what you do when no one's watching. It comes from the courage to call out a fellow officer who crosses the line. And sometimes, he said, glancing at his shoulder, it comes at a cost. As the auditorium erupted in applause, he knew something had shifted. Not fixed, not finished, but cracked open just enough to let change crawl through. In his office that evening, he stared out at the Capitol dome, glowing under a pale sky. A photo sat on his desk of the very moment he lay bleeding on that city street, his eyes unflinching, a crowd watching, the gun pointed at his head. It was horrifying and necessary because it told the truth. And truth, once exposed, doesn't go quietly back to sleep. Langston leaned back, pain still lingering in his arm, but resolve stronger than ever. He didn't come for revenge. He came to rewrite the rules, and he was just getting started.